I'm gonna say it. This is a pretty good undersized KO of Overlord. Skytread is based on an original Generation 1 toy with a gimmick focused on an automatic transformation of combining two vehicles in one. These were referred to as duocons with simple articulation. So, like modern gimmicky kitty toys, just without the oversaturation in markets. Originally, his name was Flywheels, but the box says Skytread, so I'm gonna call him that because the other sounds like a dumb name. Sorry, G1. With his two halves, he has a split personality that tends to get on each other's nerves. Even in a common interest, they'll find a reason to argue. Skytread transforms into two vehicles for the price of one, much like Cog, so are they enemies? Sort of odd considering he's not a significant Decepticon, yet is one of the headliners in the Siege line with Megatron and his commanders. But makes sense given we need a Deluxe and considering the line plays a bit of catch-up, like the Siege Battlemasters to the Titans Returns figures or Lancer and Greenlight to build up a full combiner. Skytread completes the duo of the two original duocons. This time they come together without a bonus individual robot mode, but at least this doesn't have to work around an additional added mode. Combiner Wars. The upper torso forms the airborne unit, similar to the F4 Phantom the original converted into. In fact, it's really similar to an Earth-style jet. But isn't this supposed to be a Cybertronian theme? I mean, I thought they're supposed to be similar to the original vehicles, just with supposed alien features. This is a jet. I'm confused! The design on top is nice and clean with this wonderful crimson and champagne gold additions. There's also a blue cockpit you can see from space with the Decepticon logo on top. I'd rather something darker, but it pops. Much like the trash at the bottom, typical jet former. I'll give it this, they could have just simplified all this with the arms stuck to the side, so I'm not gonna complain. There's portholes on the wings, top, bottom, and front, which is where I prefer adding the smaller weapon as a gunner. Gerwalk mode! But it's arms! I see that's a stand port, but you could fit blast effect ports inside. Is the whole jet a blast effect? It's got some wonderful texturing, but looks clean enough. I like it, but can we not turn this into blast off again? The lower portion forms the ground unit, which is some sort of tank. Looks pretty solid. Haha! I fooled you. This was a prank channel all along. The back seems pretty open, but the biggest sin is the tab that doesn't hold the stomach-head connection piece of the robot. The issue is the tabs push it right out, moving these panels that form the base turret out of place, as well as the front gunner that's barely holding, only leaving it to tilt down for the best case. Otherwise, I like the panel lines on top and rough base with gold treads for that sweet bling. This is also the only spot of that scratched effect famous in the Siege line. But here, it feels appropriate. I can imagine the tank surrounded by fire as the ground spits up debris, scratching the surface, ruining the beautiful brown armor. You can also add weapons or blast effects to the side or right beside the turret, as well as the bottom of the tank for flight mode. If you're wondering if they combine, they can't in this mode. Would have been a nice gimmick, but if the last few years of crammed gimmicks taught us anything, just make Skytread. I think both alt modes look good, they complement each other well, and give the figure an advantage of both aerial and ground attack at the same time. It's fun to have two vehicles you can mess with. I think they did a pretty good job with this. Robot mode. In robot mode, if I were to picture Flywheels or Skytread all cleaned up with the modern articulation, this has those elements, but it's made better than I would have expected. Granted, the brown and red might not flash like his counterparts, but he does a good job keeping to himself. The figure combined, split from the torso similar to the original gimmick. But if you separate the figure... The stomach organs are a connection point shaped like the head of Road Trap. This means they've also added a sneaky feature to swap the two for a change of pants. Even bring in Slam Dance, and it's like the kid booklets you can switch the legs with. You can just leave them apart for pants and a mermaid. As cool as Battletrap is for a figure slammed with another gimmick, Skytread doesn't struggle with any issues that an additional gimmick might have had. Look how clean that torso design is, and how these panels wrap around the legs. I also like the gold highlights, seeker shoulders, and wings you can adjust. That head looks just like a generic cartoon robot head, probably more in the later years. Not to say it's bad, it's fitting for the figure with the brown helmet, red visor, and silver face paint. Pretty square, but works good. Did someone say articulation? Ball jointed head, shoulders out and in forward to back rotation below, elbow bend, waist rotation, hips out and in forward to back rotation below, knee bend, and foot tilt. Posability is pretty regular for a siege figure, but I applaud them for keeping the gimmick and the waist movement. And before the comments, yes, the foot moves forward to back. But considering the joint and what happened to Slam Dance, I'd rather just use it only for the transformation. Also, I'm seeing stress on the knees, but I'm not as worried as I am with Slam Dance's known issues. Keep an eye for the crotch plate. It can pop off, and I'd have to edit in a sensor. Let's take a look at the accessories. He includes a shorter EM24 IR Laser Launcher weapon, and a longer HV Electron Breacher, which forms the tank turret. Essentially, they're the same idea, with gold accents, crimson color, and blast effect ports. The back is open on the longer gun. You can combine them to form the LRRF Suspension-Ray Super-Launcher, which is a fancy way of saying a really long but similar gun. But hey, it flows, and there's no weird tabbing ports. It's okay. Not exciting for a combination. Just like the figure. Oh, damn, get burned! You could probably give him the Titans Returns figure in the weapon form. He carries blast ports in certain places. 2 on some weird spots in the shoulders. How did that happen? And he carries portholes on the feet, side of the legs, hands, 2 in each arm, back, and both wings. I like this guy. I like the fact he doesn't have to walk with those tread feet. Those are some aggressive wheelies. I like your attitude. Skytread isn't gonna win any awards for standout figure. While dismissing him from the individual robot modes from Battle Trap has its advantages, it doesn't make him more interesting. But it doesn't mean he's bad. I'm actually sort of glad. He just does what he's supposed to do. Be the original, but update it for the modern line. A few adjustments could be made, but it pretty much does what it's supposed to do. And I can't knock it simply for it. His helmet looks like a Diglett.